Hello and welcome to this episode of ETCIO organized by the Economic Times. Today we are going to talk about how digital transformation can really help enterprises increase agility, scale and competitiveness. In fact, industry must accelerate their digital journey in order to ensure that they thrive in the coming times, because it is time to remove the inefficiencies of the system, which has already cost a lot of money to the industry. And therefore, it is imperative to embark quickly on this journey of digital transformation and adopt new technologies. Well, my name is Mukbil Ahmed. I'm the executive editor at ETCIO and the host for this discussion. First of all, I hope and wish that all of you are safe and secure. Now, let me add some more context to this discussion. Today, we see that organizations are really digitizing at a breakneck speed, and they are doing this to maintain business continuity, timelines, productivity, and all. Now, against such a context, technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing have all become really central to the efforts of enterprises to digitize as they add agility, scale, innovation to an organization. And we also see the evolution of IT services continuing to underpin technology as well as people transformation. As a result, there is a need to explore new technology frontiers, to strategize, leverage, and build solutions that can deliver sustainable value. So we'll discuss all this and more today. And I really believe that there couldn't have been a better time to do that, because for today's discussions, we have a very interesting and knowledgeable and a very insightful speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce Anand Sahai, CEO Xebia. Well, to say something about Xebia, Xebia is a pioneering software engineering and IT consultancy company. And hello and welcome to the show, Anand. How are you doing?
Doing very well, Mukbil. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'll come straight away to the crux of our discussion, Anand. What are your opening thoughts or remarks on the digital transformation journey of organizations? And let us particularly view it, from the angle or from the context of a post-pandemic world.
I think, Mukbil, the transformation was anyway happening. I mean, digitization and, the whole idea of serving the customers as and when they want things was becoming imperative. I think pandemic literally pushed it by maybe 5 to 10 years. Different people might have different views about it, but I honestly feel the speed at which the change has come and maturity has come, it's almost a decade pushed in pretty much 2.5 years.
Absolutely. In fact, there is a saying going on in the technology circles that more digital transformation has happened due to the pandemic than all the CIOs combined.
I agree with you. I think in all aspects, not only from, a lot of times when we talk about business, we only talk about, how large companies, retailers, or, the industries who are very, very consumer focused will change. But I think the whole mindset about how you handle your own talent, how much you give respect to the time of your employees, everything, every part of that thing has changed. To providers as well as consumers, everything is changing. It's pretty bizarre what we have gone through in 2.5 years.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. And, bringing the discussion more towards technology and technology-centered subjects, what are your views on, the evolving technology landscape, which we see that, it's really evolving very, very fast?
Yeah. See, there are many things which, comes together. I mean, technology sometimes, if you look at it at a high level, it's data, anything to do with data, right? I mean, AI is just an extension of it. Because if you don't process your data well, how do you do AI? Bringing security into this whole game. There are hyper scaling, infrastructure.
True.
How do you look at the infrastructure? I think these things are what I see as, which has fundamentally been at the core of the technology side of digital transformation. Obviously there are very some inherent things. For example, when typically software engineers who write the code, their whole idea about when to bring security in was an afterthought. Today, every single line of code you write, you first make sure it is secure.
Correct.
Right? So whole behavior of people or companies which are writing the software to solve a problem of the customer, that mindset itself has changed. And it's a must. If you don't do it, you do more harm to your customers or do more harm to those businesses than good by just doing some automation.
True. I absolutely agree with you. So in this context, and you briefly touched about on the security aspect and the various challenges that enterprises face today. Would you like to elaborate on the particular challenges that a lot of enterprises face, vis-a-vis their digital transformation journey?
Yeah. So, the first aspect is you need to relook at your business. I mean, the fact that you are now digitizing with an inherent understanding that the guys are not going to come into your shop, right? You need to know who are your customers, who do you entice, and when they come, then how quickly you process them as to what they need. That completely changed the paradigm of how what technology has to be pushed in. So your process has to be first relooked at, which is a intense thing. So it's no more only a technology player, it's also your own business people who have to come together. So the technology people and the business people coming together, business people beginning to learn what this technology means, and technology people beginning to see that, hey, just don't hear what the business says and begin to do something. You have to understand their mindset. I think this has been a bigger shift, which is required if anybody embarks on a digital transformation. Second, there are so many technology available, right?
True, absolutely.
To use the right one for the right problem. And quite a lot of times in the world of technology, it's almost like, okay, I understand his problem. I think I can digitize it. But then people completely misunderstand that, is this what will take them into hyperscale? So, the whole idea of, looking at the right technology to solve the right business problem is also equally important. There are plethora of technology to use. But then if there is an e-commerce company, what technology you use? How do you adopt cloud? How do you adopt mobile? What kind of cost you are ready to put in is very different than potentially a hospital, for example.
True.
Right? So ability to think end to end with an idea of which customer needs to understand which enterprises need to understand their customers better. How will they understand better? What is the amount of scale which can come in? Right? All those have a direct impact on digital transformation. And a lot of companies who do not look at the initial blueprinting part seriously are the ones who are coming the harm's way, because they very quickly think or become very dejected by the technology aspect, thinking it's too costly. Whereas I think putting the right money upfront in the initial part of the thinking, like when you build a house, unless you put in enough time and money in the early part of the building of the house, you will get something bad later, or you will keep fixing it later. I think that part is integral when you are going through a digital transformation initiative.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you, Anand, with this line of thought that any effort at digital transformation has to be linked back to the business outcomes, and they would all vary according to the requirements of the sector and all of that. Now, I really see that, this is, I also see that, when companies are trying to invest in emerging technologies, basically they are at some stage of experimentation, because a lot of technologies haven't yet matured that much. And the industry is still trying to find its footing vis-a-vis that. Now, in such a case, how are you helping enterprises who really want to be cutting edge, want to be leveraging state-of-the-art technologies and retain that competitive edge in the market? How are you doing that?
So, the most important thing to learn or understand about emerging technology adoption is there is a chance to fail, but then there is a hyper advantage if it works
Absolutely.
out. So one of the things which we do, I mean, as a company, being a more on the higher consulting of technology space, our whole workforce is tuned towards keeping an eye on what new open source is going on. Because remember, most of the new technology starts from an open source, right?
True,
So
true,
having a
absolutely.
very strong tuning in, and we are one of the big time open source committers as a company itself. So keeping an eye on that. And then very quickly start looking at having worldwide customers. I mean, you always have partners within customers who are saying, can you test something new with us? Right? So going to them and saying, hey, would you be interested to test it out? Some of those aspects we do. And we test it out. Sometimes it works. Sometimes the use cases change because the business says, oh, but you know what? Now that I understand what you're trying to do, what this new technology is coming, maybe not this use case, maybe this use case where the world can change. So it's a very experimental thing, but what choices do you have? If you do not ride on that, emerging one, you will be but if it works, you are a mainstream front runner after that. And then the first mover advantage is yours and the world can change. I mean, you can see how, Facebooks of the world are, spending what kind of money for being a sort of a first mover advantage in the world of metaverse, right? I mean, on the first go, you almost question if those ideas are even, even, even the sanity is prevailing. But later on, you begin to realize if it works, it's a hyper play. If it loses, you lose.
I totally agree with you that it involves some risk, but it's a risk worth taking for enterprises. And enterprises who don't take the digital route today will really find themselves, in a spot where they wouldn't really or ideally want to be in. I totally agree with you on that, Anand. Now, really making the discussion more focused on what Xebia does. So, one of the questions which comes to my mind is how do you differentiate in today's software development world and your own USPs?
Yeah. So as I said, Mukbil, early on, that uh, creating a software is not the tough part. Creating the right software, right, is the tough part. The whole world changes, the expense changes. I think as a company, we are a hardcore engineering firm, software engineering firm. For us, there is a word called software craftsmanship. That's how we treat a software. It's a craftsman's job, right? And that's, you can talk about differentiation in many ways, but I think we fundamentally differentiate when it comes to architecture thinking, building blocks, being aware of the latest and greatest of patterns and technology and how it can impact in putting together a more robust and scalable architectures. I think that's where we have put we come from that world. Our start and origin, we are a Dutch firm, origin was architecture consulting. And then we moved into software development. And that strength of doing the initial part right with a very clear eye to differentiate our customers to win deal if that works out well is how we start. And then it's about building a software with all the right practices, again, the craftsmanship, so that if tomorrow they have to change, then it's almost, our idea is change, the whole change at the speed of thought. Can we bring customers a software where they can change things at the speed of thought and it goes live, right? Today you felt, I want to experiment with this new idea on my website to entice a customer. You don't need a 6-month or a 3-month process. The change will be done today, and that change will be reflected to your consumers today. How do you bring those kind of practices in is where our expertise is.
Well, I can see the passion and the commitment that you have towards, really leveraging the digital route for enterprises, and it really shines through, which is a great thing. Now, So Anand, are you focusing on some particular sectors or industries?
See, I mean, we are a technology firm, but what we have realized that banking and insurance have been a big adopters for us. I mean, we are involved in building about, as we speak, about 6 digital banks worldwide, right? And you can imagine what it takes to build a bank, right? So banking is where I mean, we have larger customer size, but then we work for the world's top retailers, e-commerce companies. We are also big partners to the best of tech companies, right? I mean, tech means the tech product companies who want
Right.
our help to build their products. So that's how we are, but we still call ourselves engineering firm first.
Wonderful. Just an offshoot from this question, Anand, very interesting answer to your, to my previous question. Is that, the BFSI sector, the banking, financial, and insurance sector, it has always been, I mean, even today, if you see, they are one of the front runners as far as technology adoption is concerned. With a plethora of technologies, a plethora of all kinds of experimentations. We see so many fintechs, so many technology companies coming up. So how do you see this space, a space in which you are trying to create your own, mark and identity? How do you see the entire landscape playing out? I see it as very competitive.
Oh, heavily competitive. I mean, every small, see, the whole issue arose from the fact that different countries have different regulatory aspects to every bank, right? And if you are not a full licensed bank, then you can do many things to innovate. If you're a full licensed bank, then you have all kinds of controls on you. That allowed fintechs to come in and have a bank at the back and completely change the game when it comes to the loan ecosystem. I mean, they are now disrupting corporate banking to retail. So all these fintechs got this opportunity, but then the bankers thought that, okay, we get dependent on these fintechs. Why can't I challenge my own bank and create a bank to challenge my own brick and mortar bank? So that is the digital or a challenger bank initiative, or we sometimes call neobank. I think that has really picked up. This whole ecosystem, I think, is there to stay, with banks also learning. Always, they will always be behind the innovation, but they will keep learning and trying to put whatever the these fintechs are providing into their own thing. That will happen. It has a long rope. And remember, we are not talking India. The regulatory bodies are very different across the world. So the speed of change will also come at different times. So for companies like us, there is opportunity almost at all points of time. I mean, we are a global firm at different stages, and we are doing some innovative work in one country, and then we realize that, oh, the other country have now the same regulatory change happening. You go there and say, hey, these are the learnings. That customer also wants the same problem to be resolved. So it's a very, very fascinating area. It is an area for smart people, because you have to solve a problem, right? And then solve it through technology. Obviously, cloud is inherent to it, data and AI is inherent to it, scaled infrastructure is inherent to it. I mean, those technologies are fine, but fundamentally you have to first find that problem and then solve it. And that's where the beauty is. It's a lot of brain work, which I see.
Wonderful. And stemming from your previous response, Anand, when do you think our country is going to get its first truly digital banking entity or a bank?
Well, it depends on how the government sees it. The regulatory body decides to think. But I don't think it's going to be far away. I mean, the way our country is also opening up, very open-minded. I mean, in India, there are 2 digital banks where we are involved. Now may not be the truly digital banks, but I think it will happen. I don't think there is a choice. I mean, with the present government also, I always feel much more enthusiastic. So I think things will open up in India. I mean, we are learning. I mean, if you look at Asia Pac, it's as somebody told me, about 70 digital bank licenses were given.
Oh, amazing.
Right? So, wow. I mean, if that is happening, I can't imagine then India will remain behind. It will change.
Absolutely. And I also foresee a dramatic transformation, particularly in the BFSI sector, and with you chipping in with your inputs on what has been happening. It really sounds phenomenal, and we are just about on the cusp of this revolutionary phenomenon in the world of banking and finance. I totally agree with you. Now, I would really want to take the last question up for discussion today. And, although this discussion could have really stretched uh, a lot, because I can sense your enthusiasm and your zeal for technologies and of helping enterprises uh, attain those goals. So, Anand, what are your business growth and expansion plans, both within the country and globally?
Well, we are about just about 4,000 people as we speak worldwide, with about 2,000 plus people in India, in 5 centers in India. And let's be clear, no company in the world can grow without the Indian tech talent. That's a reality, right? Yeah, and I think for us, getting a very strong software engineering mindset people is where the challenge is. And that is why we are very selective about it. To give you a very clear answer, Mukbil, I am ready to hire as many who can do the right thing, which I told you. Software as a craftsmanship, not software as a software. Software as a craftsmanship. We have a hard controls to hiring, and there is no limit to how many we can hire. But since you asked from a budget and thinking perspective, next 3 years, at least 6,000 people is what we want to hire in India. And we are a company who hire around the world. That's our philosophy. But 6,000 in India is something which we will be very eagerly looking forward to. And I am hoping that we will find those guys.
Wow, these are really heartening and very heartening and encouraging numbers coming from you, Anand. And I really hope that Xebia is able to attain its targets and its goals and its ambitions. Now, really giving you 30 last seconds for your views on, the future of technology landscape as it is evolving. How do you see it happening in the next few years?
Yeah, so whatever you say usually happens earlier, but the way I see it, the cloud will continue to take new shapes. I mean, now almost everybody is on cloud, but hybrid cloud concept will come. I don't want to be stuck to one cloud. So some new ideas will come where you will write a software which can run on any cloud you put in. It's already coming in. So I think that will grow a lot. The AI or data and AI is becoming a little bit of a complicated when it comes to its governance, right? That I hope there is no bias when we analyze the data. So I think trusted AI is going to be one area where there will be a lot of talk, and new kind of tech aspects will be built into it. Security is going to take a new shape. How we will secure the software, and there are some exciting revolutionary thought processes are coming. That how do you protect yourself, from all the, what it is, right? All kinds of hits you get every day. That part we will see some big changes happening. Apart from that, the computing, as you know, Mukbil, that computing decides, how much of computing and processing power decides quite a lot of adoption of different kind of innovations. I always have this feeling that what if quantum comes? It disrupts, and it disrupts so hard that everything goes here and there, right?
True.
So I always think about that aspect, because if it happens, we want to be there. So we are already involved and following this thing very closely, although you always hear that, it's still not mainstream, but you know how it comes. When it will come, it completely changes the game. Apart from that, this whole idea of things like metaverse, right? The gaming going to the new level,
Absolutely.
right? The whole spatial computing where the world will change. I don't know where that is going. We already have a small focus group on metaverse and NFTs to be very clear of if there is a business case showing up for our customers, right? I mean, there are use cases which was coming in. And finally, I think the 5G. You never know, what use cases and new business models can come in, and we should be keeping an eye on it. So these are the things where, since you said 2-3 years, but I never want to be held on 2-3 years. Things change, like what we thought 3 years later will happen 6 weeks later.
Like lightning.
These are the ones which I potentially keep reading about, and I feel that we have to be ready with.
I absolutely agree with you, Anand, in the sense that you have really touched on a lot of very exciting areas. I personally feel that quantum and 5G are going to revolutionize the technology landscape, and there would be a real drastic change that maybe it's impossible to foresee even now.
Yes.
Once these two technologies kicking. In fact, I would like to say that you have laid the foundation of our future talks and collaborations. I totally agree with you. But however, in the interest of time, we will really need to wrap this up. And so, Anand, it's been a wonderfully insightful discussion for you. And as I said earlier, there are a lot of areas that I already see in which we can talk and discuss and really enlighten people around us. And so thanks a lot for joining us today, Anand. Have a good day ahead.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mukbir.